A woman in her 60s is sitting on a makeshift stand along the busiest street in Lusaka's Zambia capital city. With only a few packaged granules for sale at less than $1 each, one wonders how she will survive until the end of the month, because the local currency has fallen dramatically in recent months against the United States dollar, resulting in the sharp increase of basic commodities, and experts have warned with a current debt servicing obligations, the worst is still to come.
Things have gone up. We used to buy 5 liters of cooking oil at 100 and something, but now it's gone up to about 300 and something to get a 5 liter of cooking oil. Millimiller has also gone up, and even the soap, every essential commodity is gone up.
The price of millimiller has gone up. We used to buy at 132 kwacha, now is 150 kwacha per 25 kg bag of millimiller. Transport from Chawama to Kabulonga now, I'm spending about 50 kwacha. The previous, I used to spend about 30 kwacha, 28 kwacha. Because at that time, Chawama, from Chawama to town, it was 5 kwacha, now it's 7 kwacha. From town to Kabulonga is 13 kwacha, it used to be 11 kwacha. The price has gone almost 2 kwacha.
For many stakeholders, including the international financial market, Zambia's external debt of approximately $11.97 billion has become unsustainable, and the monthly repayment of $42 million per month plus other debt repayment obligations from other pending loans on interest means less money is spent on social services delivery by the government. This documentary is, however, concerned with the impact of the debt on social services delivery and the limited information on how much is the real total debt, who are the creditors, how are the citizens affected, and most importantly, will the government be able to repay the loans additionally now that we are defaulting on some of the loans? What plans does the government have to repay the loans and avoid more defaults? What are the short-term and long-term consequences of defaulting? These are but some of the questions that different stakeholders are asking.
So when we are talking about national debt, or simply put, public debt or sovereign debt, this basically refers to money that is borrowed by a national government on behalf of its citizens. Okay, so at present, of course, according to official government statistics, Zambia's debt in total, we have 26.9 billion kwacha as total debt, comprising, of course, about 14.7, which is external debt, that's in kwacha terms, and about 12.2 billion, which comprises domestic debt. When we're looking at public debt or national debt, it's also looking at, of course, like I had indicated, it's money that the national government borrows on behalf of the citizens, of course, to execute some of its budgets. So when debt is contracted or money is borrowed, by the very virtue of this money coming into the government coffers, this already is inflationary, because what that means is there's a lot more, sort of, in simpler terms, money in the economy, but the economy, especially for a country like this one in Zambia, does not grow at the same speed at which the money accumulates. So in that case, we have more demand for goods and services, but of course the production side of things does not grow at the same rate as the money that we have, thereby being inflationary. Then of course when you look at the exchange rate, it has to do to a larger extent in terms of how the servicing is done. So you do know that when we do have external debt, this is debt that should be paid back to, of course, the lenders, and this is often paid back in foreign currency. So this has an effect both on the excess reserves that we have, it thereby goes to deplete the foreign reserves that we have, and of course this leads to depreciation of the currency, in turn also leading to a higher standard of living or cost of living for the local citizens.
Citizens have the right to full information on issues that directly affect them. National debt is one of the major issues that is affecting development in countries that are indebted like Zambia. The country debt includes monies owed to multilateral, bilateral, commercial, export and credit suppliers, creditors.
The Minister of Finance projected that the country would raise about 98.9 billion kwacha in domestic revenues. Now, when you look at that, it looks like a huge amount. I'll say that again, 98.9 billion kwacha in domestic revenues. Now, of that amount, 79% is going to debt servicing. So we are spending most of the domestic resources on debt servicing. That's about 79% going just to debt servicing. So that leaves only about 20 billion to cover the social sectors, education, health, housing, and other important sectors of the economy. So that's not enough to cover those. And to further contextualize what I just said, of that 20 billion that's remaining after we take care of debt servicing, most of it is actually swallowed up by the wage bill. So in other words, after debt servicing and the wage bill, there's almost nothing left to invest in the social sectors of education, health, housing, water and sanitation. Now remember, these sectors are critical for poverty alleviation. So if the country doesn't invest in education, health and other social sectors, then the poverty levels are only going to increase. And if you look at the data, you will see that over the past 5 years when the country has borrowed heavily, that has had a negative impact on poverty and inequality. So why should we care about investing in health and education and other social sectors? Well, for starters, for a country to be productive, it needs a healthy, skilled population. That's what's going to drive the productivity up. And that's what's going to contribute to job creation and economic growth. So yes, to answer your question in short, the debt crisis that we are facing as a country has had negative effects on poverty levels.
I mean, the three concepts are really intertwined, even if they mean different things. So when you look at things being inflationary, there's an exchange rate or a currency depreciation, especially for an economy like Zambia, which is highly dependent on imports. What that means is it becomes difficult or more expensive to import goods and services. So by virtue of this higher expense, what this means is essentially the cost of goods and services becomes higher. And so people are paying more money, in simpler terms, to access some of these goods and services. So in essence, the cost of living then becomes higher because you're paying more for goods and services by virtue of your currency depreciating and, of course, the inflationary pressures that come with external debt. As
a Caritas Sparta, we want to put an emphasis on issues to do with the debt. In the first place, we want to communicate to the duty bearers. Communicating to duty bearers in the sense that before government contracts debts, there must be a process of informing, the citizens. What is the intention of that borrowing that we want to go into, and then how is it going to benefit, the general citizenry. This is a way of, a consultation. And it is actually a way of seeking guidance, from the general citizenry. We don't want to see a situation where, because you are government, and then you think you have enough mandate to do without the consultations. I think that is wrong. Governments should be able to consult, tell the citizens, we want to borrow, and the purpose of borrowing, we want to use this borrowing for A, B, C, D. That becomes, some kind of ratifications from the citizens. You see, what people should realize is that when you talk about these debts, people tend to feel that they've got no impact. Impact in terms of to the common citizens. And the people think, even the common citizens themselves, they think that the issues of debt actually does not affect them, but it affects a certain class of people, which is not true, far from it. You see, the crucialness of debts contracting is that if you are not careful, you are putting the coming generation into problems, because it may not you who has borrowed to start, repaying for these debts. It is actually the coming generation. And when the payment of these debts has started, then the period for payment has started, what do we need to, what usually happens is government will cut certain expenditures, on the social, sectors. This is why you see that, for example, government will say, we are not going to employ civil servants in the next 3 years, because they are servicing the debts. This is a situation where you see government is saying, we are not going to increase the salaries for civil servants, because they are servicing debts. This is where you say you go to hospitals, you are just given a prescription, and then you are told, can you go and buy this medicine? Because the money is going towards servicing the debts. So even the very common, the very village in the remote areas, they are heavily affected by this. In fact, that the people that are even more affected, because in this situation, they cannot afford to buy a Panadol, they cannot afford to buy the medicines that are being told to buy, which are not in the government hospitals, because the government has got not enough money, because the money is going towards servicing these debts.
With Zambia's current economic performance, falling reserves, inflation, and devaluing of the local currency, the country has been struggling to service its debt to an extent of having defaulted in 2 interest payments on its 2022 and 2027 Euro bonds. The debt servicing that the country is obligated to meet is coming from limited resources available.
National debt, it's debts which is being acquired by the government. When the government fails to pay its debt, by the end of the day to affect its citizen, the reason being is, of course, they can default. The impact will come back to the ordinary citizen, because certain issues will go high. When everything goes up, automatically it affects everyone, even including, especially ordinary citizens, because we are already struggling to find our ends meet. But you find that when things goes up, automatically it will affect us more than anybody else. Always you need to have stakeholders meeting, get the ordinary citizens, what's their view, how much money do you want to borrow, and what are the intentions for that money which you are borrowing, and how do you utilize the same money. From there, when you utilize that money, you come back to the citizen, oh no, this is what we have achieved so far with the borrowed money, so that the citizens may see the benefits of what's the money which you borrowed, where it works. Does it affect us, or does it make profit for the country? I think that's the way to go. Obviously, corruption, it's a disease, but we need to cure it. Book those who are found corrupt. Of course, the law is there. It's just a matter of enforcing it to the fullest. That's all.
This has to put a strain on the country's development, not excluding the social sector. Therefore, there is a need for Zambians to have a full information on Zambia's debt situation and what the different stakeholders' role are in handling it.
The view of the church regarding debt is that debt is enslaving. Debt denies a country of resources that should go to vital sectors such as education, health, and emergency and other developmental related areas. So basically, debt, of course, you can get debt strategically to invest in infrastructure development and also obtain certain vital needs of a country. But when debt is consumed contracted in an environment where there's lack of transparency, shrouded in mystery, influenced sometimes by corruption, if not many of the times, it becomes toxic and therefore does not achieve its intended target. And so the issues of debt is that yes, we can contract debt, we can get money but the whole process should be able to be transparent, and we must get debt that is necessary for the holistic and sustainable development of this country, and also cost-effective. Debt can be obtained at very exorbitant rates, and then we pass it on to generations beyond our time. So basically, we wouldn't want to throw the baby with the water. It is necessary, it's inevitable at times to borrow, but why do we borrow? For what reasons is the issue at hand? And so basically, we would welcome debt that is aimed at ensuring that the country is able to develop in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure, and other areas of interest. The church needs to get upset. The church needs to get agitated. We have been hoodwinked long enough. We have prayed long enough. It is time to say enough is enough. The cause of the problem is A, B, C, D. Let's not want to hide behind God for things that we have caused ourselves and things that require our repentance and our repositioning, our refocusing, our getting of priorities right, so that we get development that does not just focus on the rich getting richer, but ensuring that everybody can lead a dignified life. We need to begin or restart the campaign against irresponsible borrowing. The overcosting of procurements, all these things that are going on must be an area of concern. Let's not wait until we reach October to start praying and denouncing and cursing the demons of poverty, when people are making wrong choices and decisions here and now in those air-conditioned offices. The church must be agitated. The church must be upset, just like Jesus had holy anger. And when he saw that abuse, when he saw the corruption in the temple, he overturned the tables and later on came and ministered to the people. The church needs to be agitated. The church needs to say enough is enough. And so what should we do? We must proactively commit ourselves to play our prophetic role, denounce and expose, advocate, also ensure that our theological training centers where our core staff are trained, we need to begin to match our curriculums with the current issues facing our day and age.
The cost of living at JCTR is measured by the basic needs and nutrition basket, which we've been doing for over 30 years now. And this is a basket that contains the essential food items and also essential non-food items for a family of 5 in Lusaka, but also in other towns in Zambia. But in the case of Lusaka, I would draw your attention to this comparison that in 2011, the basket stood at 2,900 kwacha, as compared to the basket in February 2022, which is at 9,305 kwacha. And of course, we need to speak in perspective. In 2011, the kwacha was trading at for 4 kwacha 90 ngwe per dollar, whereas at the end of February 2022, it was the kwacha was selling around trading at 18 kwacha per dollar. So maybe those are the factors you need to look at. But also then there are issues to do with, take for instance the performance of the, this is the performance of the currency which I've given you, but also if you look at the inflation in 2011, in December 2011, was at 6%. And but again, if you compare to inflation at the end of February 2022, it was around 18%. And then those are the factors you look at. And then when it comes to the cost of living itself, the cost of living is affected by, there are so many factors that affect the cost of living. This is across the board. We're not only speaking about Lusaka, we're talking about cost of living in Zambia. So there are issues like the electricity costs, there are fuel prices, and then maybe the dynamics and movements with importation. And for instance, if there's an importation ban, as was the case last year on onions, you see the impact of that immediately. But also the other factors, for instance, these days we can't discuss this without looking also at climate change as a factor. So we've been experiencing drought and we've been experiencing floods.
In terms of how we feel this can be taken care of, the debt problem, we think that debt restructuring with the help of the IMF is a very important step, because that's going to free up some resources then to invest in health and education and other social sectors. Debt restructuring will also make it possible for the government to invest in growth sectors of tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and small businesses that are important for enhancing or stimulating economic growth. Apart from that, we also feel that it's very important to deal with this debt crisis. It's very important to slow the pace of debt contraction. Now, that is linked to expenditure. So the government has to curb the excessive spending. Some of the drivers of expenditure, like subsidies, have to be streamlined. And some of them have to just completely go. So we actually support the removal of costly subsidies as a way to control or curb excessive spending. Another thing that can be done to control or to deal with the debt issue is to enhance domestic resource mobilization. So the country has had to rely a lot on external debt. So a way around that is to boost domestic revenues, and that is going to help with reducing pressure on the available resources, as well as freeing up some resources then to spend on health and education. We also feel that good governance is key in resolving the debt crisis. So transparency, accountability in the way that the debt is contracted, and also in the way that the repayments are made. So we encourage government to report the debt statistics. That way people can be kept informed of what debt has been contracted and who we owe as a country, and also about the payments that are being made. Going forward, the government should only borrow on very low interest rates. So this is what we are referring to as smart borrowing. So concessional loans as opposed to non-concessional borrowing. And of course, citizens get the bite. Like right now, when the subsidies are removed as a way of dealing with the debt crisis, everybody's feeling the pinch in their pocket because they have to pay more in terms of transportation costs and the cost of fuel. So we feel that reporting the debt statistics, like I said, sensitizing citizens about the debt issue, translating some of this information into local languages, so that as many people as possible can be sensitized and informed about the debt situation. That's not only going to help with making people understand, it's also going to help government to get people on board with regards to dealing with the debt crisis. The government cannot deal with the debt crisis without the support of the population. The population needs to understand where we are as a country, that we have borrowed up to our necks, and so we have to take drastic measures to resolve the debt crisis. And citizens are participating in those measures as well, because some of these policies are affecting them. But the benefits of the policies that the government is putting in place to deal with the debt crisis have to be explained clearly, right? That the savings that are being made are going into health and education, okay? And those are the sectors that are critical for the development of the country.